Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Dave's Faves. And today we are going to talk about Holst's The Planets. Yeah, the planets. My God, that's fun. I had so much fun doing it. I played both the orchestral version and the band arrangement of certain bits, including Jupiter and some other things. And the band arrangement, which I know a lot of you have played too, because I know some of you folks out there are brass players and percussion players and arrangers, and you've done all that stuff. Holst was a band guy. I mean, he wrote the two fabulous band suites, which I've talked about in another video. But more to the point, he played the trombone. And his music is essentially band music. He doesn't give the violins much to do that's terribly interesting. The Planets is essentially a rhythmic study. Every single movement deals with sometimes very complex rhythmic ostinatos, repeated rhythmic figures. Now, for example, in Mars, which is in 5/4, which is a very unusual meter, and so is Neptune. That's also in 5/4. He liked to do that, and the particular pattern in Mars is ba-da-da-dum bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum 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 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. You see, that's how it works. And in Mercury, it's even more tricky. It's dum dum da 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 dum ba dun 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 da dun da 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 dum ba dun dun dun. That's the repeated rhythmic figure, and you find them either pervading an entire movement or in certain specific sections. And these rhythmic patterns are, as often as not, maintained by the strings, which makes the violins hate this music because they have very few big tunes. There's that one in the center, in the middle of Jupiter, which is gorgeous. Big, beautiful, pomp and circumstance kind of tune, which is the only one of its kind that Holst ever wrote. But otherwise, these pieces are extremely tricky in terms of syncopations and, sort of odd rhythms and things. It's fabulous. I mean, it's really clever to see how he does it. The orchestration is amazing, but all the fun, because he's a great orchestrator, is in the wind section, which is where great orchestrators go when they want to do something dazzling. You go to your woodwind section, and the woodwind section here is very rich. It has a bass oboe or heckelphone in it, for example. It has alto flutes. It has all these extra instrument things to give that section even more color than it normally does, and a very generous percussion section with two sets of timpani who have such a good time in Uranus, which I'm still going to call Uranus because that's what it was before people started to joke about it after Voyager flew by it. That was the day, by the way, when they started calling it Uranus, because everybody was laughing that Voyager was looking at Uranus. I get it, but that's what its name was. Anyway, it's ba-da-dum ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-da-dum ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-da-dum ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-da da-da da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da da-da da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da da-da-da-dum, ba-da da-da-da-dum. It's all those rhythmic things. It's so much fun. Anyway, the recording that I reach for as often as not, and I've done a big talk on the planet, so you can see, there's a half dozen or a dozen of them that are just terrific. It's been recorded many, many times. From Adrian Bolt, who's fabulous, to Herbert von Karajan with Vienna, who's fabulous, to Levy on Telarc, which is really, mind-blowingly well recorded, and Macaris did a terrific one. Oh gosh, there's so many. Who do you pick? Well, I pick Charles Dutoit in Montreal. This is the Penguin Classics version. Remember Penguin Classics for the 10 minutes that lasted? This is the one. It had a normal release too, but this was the reissue. The reason I like this so much is because, Dutoit in Montreal became they were the Ansermet of Decca in digital sound. the digital ensemble. Decca for some reason had to have some sort of French ensemble to do all the French repertoire with, and they redid everything that ensemble did, only usually not as well. And they were good. I mean, they were quite good. Every time they did something, because it was Decca, Gramophone would rave about the incredible sonics from Saint Eustache Church and all this. The sound was not always that great, and their French music was not always that great. Their Ravel and Debussy were kind of average. Dutoit was not the most charismatic conductor, but he'd made a few first-class recordings, of course, and they did too much, way too much. But still, I mean, these recordings put the Montreal Orchestra on the map, and it really is a terrific orchestra. But most importantly, from our point of view, it has a fabulous trombone section. Really marvelous. I mean, I remember I went to see them do Shostakovich Eight. And oh, how I remember that concert, let me tell you, because the first half had, I think, Midori. It was Midori doing Vinovsky's first violin concerto. Oh, the dullest piece of music ever written. I mean, it was so excruciatingly boring. And I fell asleep. And I was with a friend of mine who was a violinist, and we were sitting in the top, the upper balcony at Carnegie Hall, which has the best sound and the cheapest seats, by the way. I mean, yes, everybody's very tiny and you're far away, but boy, it sounds great. The sound just flutes right up. But because Midori was there, every Suzuki violinist and their parents were up there. It was like half the population of Japan was there. And I was sitting there snoring. I was completely, totally out during Vinovsky. And I was just like this, and when it was over and I woke up, the entire balcony was staring at me like, they wanted me dead. And I said to my friend, who was also Japanese, I said to him, "Why didn't you wake me up?" I said, "You should have woken me up." He said, "No, it was boring. I was having more fun watching them staring at you like they wished you were dead. It got me through the concerto." But anyway, the second half was Shostakovich Eighth, which they also recorded, by the way. It's quite a good performance, I believe. They did some off-the-beaten-track things that no one pays attention to. And I was so impressed by how powerful that performance was because of that trombone section. In the toccata, when they take over the tune and they're going ta 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 ta. It's amazing. It's a real virtuoso trombone lick, and they just tore through it. Amazing things happen when you have a great trombone section. And what makes them so great is that they don't have to be loud to be cutting. They cut through the thickest textures with a really powerful, focused, weighty tone. So in Mars, when it's going da-da-da-dum, bum, 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 ba-da-da-dum, bum, 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 dum, bwah, bwah, I mean, it just is so scary. It's fantastic. And the big chorale in Saturn, and the big tune in Uranus, and in Jupiter, and all those things where you need that. And it's just wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And they have that French sensibility in terms of rhythm. That is clarté, as they say en français. Clarity. Transparency of texture, clarity of rhythm, and in this case they are wonderfully recorded. It's just a fantastic performance. I just love to listen to it and just revel in the sprightly rhythms and fantastic colors and just the power and elegance and refinement and all of those things. And Dutoit is absolutely in top form. There's another case where, of course, he had to do all the French repertoire because he was French, and the Montreal Orchestra was French, and so they had to be French and do French things. But I always asked myself, after like that Shostakovich performance and this Holst performance, what were they really good at? What would things have been like if they had had the opportunity to just do what they did fabulously? He did a terrific Haydn Paris symphonies too. You never know. You never know, but the industry does not always allow people to show themselves at their best. And in this particular recording of the planets, we do hear them at their best, and it's just a great performance of the planets, and that's why I like it so much. It just really gives me enormous satisfaction. And, like I said, there's half a dozen others on any given day that I might want to play as well. But overall, when I want to hear the planets, this is the one I want to hear. Charles Dutoit and the Orchestra Symphony de Montréal. Montréal. They're just great. On Decca. Absolutely first rate. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.